And we are live, everyone. Super excited to have Peter here again with us.
Hello.
Hi. Today's webinar, we've asked Peter to give us an insight onto how agencies price. Peter is the co-founder of the Wow Company and the Agency Collective, and he runs BenchPress, the UK's largest survey of independent agency owners. So he has a lot of knowledge. He has a lot of background, a lot of years behind that could back up all of the knowledge, all of the research that you've done as well, through the surveys, through being at Wow. Before we get started, just a little bit of housekeeping. You guys have a side panel that you can chat to us in, and you can ask any questions throughout the whole webinar. We'll be either, like if Peter's in the middle of chatting, I might just wait a few seconds, but we'll be jumping into those questions and answering any questions that you guys may have. And also our MD Andy has joined just to be chatting to us as well there. I'd like to start with one bit of an impactful bit of information that you guys at the Wow Company have learned through research. And that is, the more agencies charge, the more profit they make.
Yep.
That's just a statement, isn't it? Wow, right there. So guys, start charging more. If you're not, start charging more. That's what I would have to say about that. So tell me, can you talk to us a bit more about how agencies price?
Yes, and in particular, I'd love to go into more detail about how we discovered that and some of the nuances around that.
Cool.
Whenever I'm sharing benchmark data, I like to make sure I get the stats 100% right. So I'm going to share my screen.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have a few notes.
We've got amazing bits of information. We've got a lot of our clients joining us still. Some of our clients, mutual clients, as we learned as well. So that's exciting as well. You guys know them and we know them as well. And so, yeah, take it away. Take it away. People are still joining.
Grant, can you see my screen okay?
Yeah, I can see your screen perfectly.
Okay, so before I delve into the research that we've done on this subject, how agencies price, which is a really hot topic. It's always been a hot topic. I thought it'd be useful just to put into context what I'll be talking about today.
Yeah.
Explain a little bit about the journey that's led me personally to this point. So
yeah,
it all started 16 years ago with the Wow Company. We're now an accounting practice that specialises in working with agencies, typically those with between 5 to 75 staff. And we empower people to build beautiful businesses, so businesses that are profitable and sustainable, that are built around their people, that are purpose-driven and do good in the world. So that's what we do at Wow. And obviously, I do the accounts for well, not me personally, the team do the accounts for these agencies. And I've always been fascinated by the difference between those that achieve great things and those that find it a challenge. And I've sort of made it my mission to explore the difference between those that tick along and those that achieve great things, and share what I see on webinars like this. And other bits of the jigsaw that help me deliver this advice. 7 years ago, I set up the Agency Collective. That was, or it's now the largest community for agencies in the UK, agency owners in the UK. It's an incredible community. It's just the most wonderful peer support. And the reason we set that up was because our clients kept coming to us with the same challenges, not just around their numbers, but around winning new business and hiring talent and managing talent and the whole roller coaster of agency life. So the Agency Collective was set up as a community to bring people together, to learn, to share ideas, and to build better agencies. And obviously, I hear a lot of stories in that community. We've got a very active Slack group, so I see what's going on. And again, I use it as an opportunity to find out what the top performing agencies are doing right now. And when it comes to top performing agencies, I know exactly who they are. I know exactly what they're doing because I've got all that data in BenchPress. So BenchPress is, if you've not come across this before, I'd encourage you to check it out. Go to benchpress.uk.com. It's an incredible resource of benchmarking data. It's stretching back 9 years now. This is year number 9. And we know everything around growth rates, profitability, staff retention, how reliant agencies are on one client, how much agency owners own, literally everything. And a lot of what I'm going to be talking about today has been inspired by data from BenchPress over the years. And it's not just about the data, by the way. When we publish stuff in BenchPress, I know people pay attention to it and take action. And that's what I'd love for people listening to this to do today. I want to challenge you. I want to challenge you as to what the next level is for your agency, so you can do something about it. Because I love hearing those stories of people who, you know, who bump into me or drop me an email and say, hey, you know, I saw that stat. I realized I was in the bottom 25%. And I did something about it, and I've made progress. So that's my hope today. That
so rewarding, right? To
yeah,
hear.
lovely.
It is. And also, data just doesn't lie, does it? You've got the facts. So if you back your statements with data, then it's a win-win, really. You've got the knowledge. I can predict things as well. For example, when I'm chatting to clients, I would see different ways of pricing, profit margins, the way they're calculating their costs. But you've got the data there, so you know for a fact. So it's amazing. I can't wait to hear. Tell me more.
This is the beautiful thing, you know, 500 sets of accounts. We see everything. 1,000 people taking part in BenchPress. We've got all of this information, and my job is to share it with you. So let's start. So in terms of why we're talking about this topic, why we're talking about pricing, it comes down to one word, which is profit. As you've already said, the agencies that charge more for their projects end up making more money. And I've got some really interesting stats on that coming up. So just as an overview, I just wanted to share exactly how agencies price. So 62% use a blended rate. So that's one simple rate across the industry, so across all of their business. So our rate is £80 an hour, £100 an hour, whatever that is. And the remainder use tiered rates. So, well, our juniors will charge out at £50, and then next level up will be 60, and then 70 and 80 and 90 and 100, whatever it is. So we use tiered rate depending on the member of the team that's doing the work. Now, there is a tipping point around about £1 million. Once you get to £1 million of fee income, then that flips, and more people start to use tiered rates than blended rates. And that kind of makes sense. You know, there's a wonderful simplicity about a blended rate in a small agency, often because you've got 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 or 6 people there that, you know, they're often closely grouped together in terms of their fees. Once you get bigger, then it makes sense to have tiered pricing. Now, if you're sat there thinking, well, I quite like the simplicity of blended rates, let me tell you this, you're missing a trick, because you're not charging yourself out at a premium price. And if you're not quite ready to go to the tiered rates yet, I'd encourage you to think about what the interim would be, and maybe having just 2 rates, one for the team and one for you, and charge you as the owner of the business, as the director, the one with all of the knowledge, or the most knowledge, the most experience, at a higher rate. Clients will be willing to pay more for it, and the agencies that do that make more money. And
you can do that from Streamtime. You can select specific team members when you're charging out at their sell rates, and you can absolutely do that with Streamtime. That's fab.
Yeah, really, really easily. And as I say, if you want to start making the move, just start with yourself. I thought it'd be useful to share exactly how much agencies charge for each level within the business, and we've got research on this. So
tell me more.
Yeah, I know. Of course, junior, mid-level, seniors. This is what they charge. So we split this into the bottom 25%, what the average do, and then the top 25%. So the bottom 25%, if you find yourself in this category, then you should definitely increase your prices, because you're in the bottom 25%. So they're charging juniors out at £50 an hour and directors only out at £75 an hour. Now, I think if you find yourself in that category, you're selling yourself short. Do you do below average work? I don't think so. So you shouldn't charge below average prices. Now, this is where the average agency is. You know, you look at a range between £70 and £100 an hour. The top performing agencies, they don't charge any of their team out than be less than £85 an hour, and their directors are averaging £130 an hour. Now, looking at all of those figures, the ones I really want you to pay attention to are these. No one wants to be average, right? You don't do average work, so why are you charging average prices? It's really important that we all raise our game and start matching the fees that we charge to the value that we add to businesses. So that's where I'd love to focus your energies. How can you get to be one of the top 25%?
It's good to see those figures. I see those figures all the time while helping clients, and when we're covering specific areas of the system. I must say I see a lot of the average, and some agencies on the higher one, some on the lower, but not many. So
well, it's good. I think a lot of the firms that use Stream Time are forward thinking and progressing by their very nature. The fact that they're bothering to plan their work effectively, assess the profitability of their projects, shows that they're thinking about this. And as soon as you become conscious about your project profitability, you become very conscious about your pricing. So I'm not surprised there's not too many in the bottom 25%, but hopefully we can encourage a few more up the rung of the ladder. Now, I had a challenge from a client on this. A client said to me, hang on a minute, he said, the average hourly rate static for agencies, it's remained at about £80 an hour for as long as I can remember. And yet, I read your reports, Peter, 55% planning on increased pricing. So that makes absolutely no sense. So 55% plan to increase prices every year, and yet the average blended rate has remained static. What's going on? And I thought, you know what? That is really bloody interesting. I'm going to find out. And here's what I discovered. I discovered that there was a correlation between hourly rate and the amount of time that you are in business. And here's what that looks like. So you can see that the longer you are in business, the higher your average rate. And the reason why the average has remained static is because the agency landscape is built on a pyramid. There are a lot of very, very small agencies, and then a fewer number of mid-sized ones, and then an even smaller number of the bigger ones. And what happens is there's lots of small ones coming into the market. So right now, as you're listening to this, someone is handing in their notice at an agency and they're going freelance. And in 1 year, they'll have a few other freelancers. In 2 years, they'll have formed a business and they'll have 4 or 5. And suddenly, all of these agencies are being spawned. And what they're doing is they're charging low rates. And there's a wonderful thing happened that we discovered with our data was it was almost a perfect line. So the average rate for a startup agency is £75 an hour. And then it's £1 for each year they are in business that the rate increases. So it's just incredible the way that worked out. But what's happening is agencies, as time goes on, they're getting more confident, they're increasing their rates. There's also a correlation between hourly rate and turnover, as you'd expect. So agencies under £500,000 tend to charge on average 75, and it creeps up to 85 as you get into that £500,000 to £2 million bracket. And then the 2 million agencies, well, they've really got it sussed, and they're up to £100 an hour. But I don't want you to have to wait to get to 2 million. I don't want you to have to wait 25 years to get to £100 an hour. There is absolutely no reason why you can't shortcut that journey. And I would, again, just challenge you to think, well, hang on a minute. What do we need to do to increase our prices? What would give us the confidence? And I've got some further thoughts on that. But I just wanted to share with you how those hourly rates pan out over time.
So just before we move on, Andy is saying, is there also a case that there is an ambition to charge more, and then there's acceptance of a client's budget?
Yes, there is that reality. I guess my challenge to anyone who finds themselves in a situation where I speak to people all the time and say, look, our clients just won't stomach those fee increases. My challenge to everyone who finds themselves in that situation is find yourself some new clients. I mean, seriously, find yourself new clients. One of my favorite stories with this is it was a client of Wow's who started off their agency and were charging £40 an hour. And I know that sounds crazy. These guys are super talented, but they just wanted to win the work. And they went, I said, look, that's ridiculous. You should double it. Look at the averages. You should double it. Anyway, they didn't double it. They increased it by £10 an hour to 50. But over the course of the next couple of months, they didn't get any kickback. Then they went to £60 an hour, and then 70 and 80. Anyway, they went on this journey. They're now £150 an hour, by the way. It took them 2 years to get there, but they went from £40 an hour to £150 an hour. The other thing that crucially changed in that time was they changed who they were working with. So they stopped working with local businesses. You know, they were building websites for people selling jewelry for £1,000. You know, the website would cost £1,000. I mean, it's absolutely crazy how they could expect to make any money on that. They went from doing websites for local businesses, to doing internal communications work. That's what they focused on, internal comms work for some really interesting brands, blue chip brands. And all of a sudden the budgets went from £1,000 for a website to 50 grand for one campaign. And that allowed them to increase prices. That allowed them to increase profitability. There's absolutely no way they would have been able to charge £150 an hour to the person selling jewelry. And that's a key point. If you're getting feedback from your clients, go and find better clients.
And so, yeah, we covered this very same thing with Catherine Williams, and she's a financial consultant for the creative industry in Australia. And we did a webinar, and she gave us tips. So guys, go to the blog and also check out that webinar, tips on how to break it to the clients, that you're going to bring the prices up. And eventually, if that client is not willing and you've got all those costs and you need to just up the prices, it's hard though. It's really hard. One thing is the theory and saying it, and the other one is telling your client if you don't like it. Or a Nike, for example, I see a lot of people, they get Nike and they've got to give up so many things to get Nike.
Yeah.
Including working with other clients they might like, including, there's all these things that you've got to give up to work with certain clients for the name. And that might even be, pricing. But I also agree with you that changing clients if they're not willing to understand the reason behind you upping the prices and the value that you're providing to them, then it's a good idea. Great advice.
I've got a great story about that. So anyone who struggles with that conversation with clients about increasing fees, because it's all very well, it's easier to increase fees for new clients because they've got nothing to compare it to. So you could go and do it tomorrow and change your fees in the next proposal you issue, and you've kind of not lost anything. It's harder for existing clients, and the best way I've seen to manage that conversation is to go to them and say, look, if you were a new client now, you'd be on this rate here. You're currently on this rate, and here's the gap. This is where the gap is. And then the next bit is really crucial. You ask a question. You say, look, how would you feel about closing that gap? You're not saying we are going to close that gap. You're not saying you're going to have to pay this. You're not imposing anything on them. You're just curiously asking a question. How would you feel about closing that gap? Now, you're going to get a variety of responses. In one case, the client will say, and this has happened a lot, the client will say, do you know what? I've been waiting for this phone call. I think you guys are incredible value. Let's pay the proper rates. I don't want you to be out of pocket. That happens a lot. At the other extreme, clients can say, do you know what? If this goes up by a penny, then it's going to have to go out to tender. I'm really sorry, but our budgets are so tight. Now, if you find yourself in that situation on this end of the spectrum, you have the ability to just backtrack if you want and say, do you know what? Let's leave things as they are. Let's review things in 6 months and see how we get on. How does that sound? Now, the client all of a sudden feels like they're getting a great deal because they should be paying a higher amount. You've not damaged the relationship because you've asked a question and you've backtracked if you need to. Now, you could decide, well, actually, I don't want to work with them at that rate anymore, so we're going to have to walk away. But you decide whether to walk away or not. Now, the most likely outcome is that you'll be in somewhere in between. So the client will say, do you know what? How about we meet at this point? We meet halfway. Or can we phase up the increase over the next 6 months? But I promise you, well, here's the thing. If you don't have that conversation, you will not increase prices. Clients will not voluntarily say, oh, would you like some more money? You have to initiate that conversation, do it confidently, and just play the game. If you don't ask, you don't get. That's what my parents used to tell me. And
same saying in Spain. It's everywhere. Yeah, that's really valuable advice. Thanks so much for sharing, Pete, because that's something that our clients I know struggle with. Not everybody, but it's just great to hear it over and over, and tips on how to have that conversations with the clients. Andy's just keeping the little links coming, so that's fantastic. He's keeping up, sending the links to the webinar that we just were chatting about. So that's so great. We've covered the hourly rates, but there's also a lot of talk, and we again on that webinar talked about value-based pricing.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
I'm a big fan of it, and I've got some further thoughts in it about how to sell value rather than time, because selling time will get you so far. Selling time and then working really hard on the efficiencies will get you to a good level of profit, but there is a level above that to unlock. It's kind of like the secret corridor in a game, but this has the potential to transform your profitability. And the journey towards that. So a lot of people will have heard about the concept of selling value and rather than time. And I wanted to give you some practical things that I've seen other or Wow's clients do that has made a massive difference. So right now, there are some services that you offer that add disproportionately more value to your clients than the rest of them. And conversely, there are some services that you offer that are pretty much commoditized. Now, if the entirety of your business is just commoditized services, then you're going to find it challenging over the next decade, because increasingly, all commoditized agency services are going to just get reduced in price, and it's going to get squeezed. Now, the bit that your clients can't get elsewhere, I believe, is the strategic advice. You know, the bit that only you can do. And what I'd encourage you to do is look at the parts of the services that you offer where the clients really value, because that's the bit where you can detach time from the price that you charge. And to do that, you have to become a specialist. You can't be a generalist, because like you're just a generalist. They can just go to the generalist down the road. But as soon as you start to specialize, either in a sector, so you become niche in a sector, or you specialize in terms of a very particular offering that you're going to go to the market with, then that's the opportunity for you. Now, if you're really smart, you're going to come up with a specialist offering for a specialist marketplace. And my goodness, that's when it really gets interesting. And the challenge I have for everyone listening to this, and if you heard me talk before, you know I love this question, and I make no apologies for continuing to ask it and continuing to challenge you on it, because I challenge myself on it as well, is how can you become the best in the world at what you do? I mean, the best in the world. Really own something, you know? Don't just be an also-ran, because if they can get what you offer from somewhere else, then they might go somewhere else. And if you're competing based on price or even efficiency or even creativity, you know, because creativity feels more noble than efficiency, which feels more noble than competing on price. But guess what? Someone can do it cheaper, someone can do it more efficiently, and there's probably someone who can be more creative than you. But if you can become the best in the world at something and find a place where there's no competition, my goodness, you can charge what you want. Now, that's what you need to think about. Now, to do that, you have to narrow focus. You have to stop doing stuff. You have to say no and put the blinkers on. And this journey to becoming the best in the world is kind of like a never-ending one. But it starts today and it continues tomorrow. And you've got to keep asking yourself that question and start saying no to more and more things. A great book to help you read on this about how to sell value, not time, is this one. It's Pricing Creativity by Blair Enns. As it says on the cover there, a guide to profit beyond the billable hour. Blair is absolutely phenomenal. If you ever get a chance to see him or listen to any of his stuff, I'd highly recommend it. He came along to the Agency Collective event last year. And for any Agency Collective members listening to this, you can log in to your portal and watch that video. And if you've not seen it, it's incredible. If you're not a member of the Agency Collective and you want to find out more, just drop me an email and I'll send you details. But read that book. It will, honestly, I've had so many people text me and email me and tweet me and say, oh my goodness, I read that book. And well, probably one of my favorite text messages, someone said, and I love the way I'm getting credit for it. I didn't write the bloody book, Blair did. He said, I've just sold something for £60,000 that I used to sell for 18. Thank you so much.
Wow.
One of my favorite text messages. I just wish I'd have taken some sort of commission. That would have been lovely. But don't read it will transform the way you think about pricing. And if you apply it, the results will be transformational. Really exciting. So I just want to think about that. Think about how you can be the best in the world. Think about how you can price creatively, and you'll be onto an exciting journey.
Yeah, there's a lot of companies that I have seen charging. There is an option in Streamtime, you can just invoice your time. So some people may be on a retainer, some people may be and billable. So time spent on something is still very much a way of charging out. Instead of saying, well, we offer this and your peace of mind for hosting your website for the entire year, and this is what we charge for it. Instead, they want to know by the minute, how long did that update take? How much code did they have to do? So that's still very much happening. And we've covered this before. It is just exciting, the thought of being able to just say, okay, trust me, this is what we do. This is how much it costs, and this is what you're going to get from us, and have the client trust that. It's hard, but yeah.
I've got a story on that. I'd love to share, actually. It's just popped into my head. So I've been talking about this for years, about the challenge of our industry becoming increasingly commoditized, and the challenge for all of us to focus on delivering that value. And I was chatting to a video production agency. They're clients of ours, about $1 million turnover, and they had made the move from. So they were lamenting the fact that they worked on like one-off projects and budgets were getting squeezed, but they made a move to do more strategic work. And I had lunch with the founder, and 6 months after our original conversation, I said, "How's this project going to get more strategic work?" He said, "Amazing. It's been brilliant. We've completely transformed our agency, and we're getting loads more strategic work." And I said, "Oh my goodness, how have you done that? Because that's not easy to do, right?" And he's done it in 6 months. So I took my pen and notepad out, and I took notes for everyone's benefit now. So I said, "What did you do?" He said, "Do you know what? It was really easy. All we did was, instead of talking about video production, we started talking about content strategy. So we started writing blogs about it. We ran events on content strategy. We got speaking gigs about content strategy. And we just changed some of the messaging on our website. So it was all about content strategy. And guess what? We started to win projects where people were paying us £20,000 to come up with a content strategy, which resulted in some video production work. But all of a sudden, these guys own the strategy, and they owned the 12-month project plan to implement that strategy, of which they were delivering certain elements of it, or key elements of it. So suddenly they went from winning, maybe a 25 or 30,000 pound video production project, which is hard work. Those of you in video production know how hard it is to turn a profit to those things, to actually owning the strategy, getting paid to do the strategy, owning everything, and having visibility for what they were going to do with that client throughout the whole year. And it was simple. So whatever it is that you want to be famous for, start talking about it, start writing about it, and start speaking at events about it. And guess what? You'll get famous for it. If you carry on talking about the same stuff that you do, the commoditized bits, well, you'll just disappear, blend into the background. So talk about the stuff that only you can do, and good things will happen.
That's amazing advice. Again, guys, take notes. That's really good. I find a lot of our clients, so we're talking about value-based pricing, and I find some of our clients still don't charge for some of the stuff they do for the clients, or they hide. So there's an option in Streamtime where you can grab a bit of information, say account management, and just merge it into another line item. And that way, oops, it's there, but it's not really visible. And for years, even with the other product, for years, people just want to merge line items, make sure the client doesn't see some of the things that we're charging for, even though hopefully you are charging them. Some people just simply don't. Or some people may have project management as one of the things they charge, but they call it a discovery phase. What have you to say on what people do charge and not charge about?
Well, so I was curious about this too. So we just asked the question. We asked 1,000 agency owners, do you charge for everything, and what don't you charge for? And what we discovered was there are several agencies that are basically doing work for free. And if you do work for free, I think you're on a hiding to nothing. So first of all, the client won't value it. If you do work for free, the client won't value it. That's the really odd thing. You think you're doing them a favor. When a member of your team goes beyond scope, they think they're doing the client a favor, but the client often doesn't know they're going beyond scope, therefore doesn't value it. No one wins from that. But what was astonishing was that when we looked at these three areas, project scoping, project management, and account management, there were agencies not just going beyond the scope for this stuff, but literally just giving this stuff away, not even attempting to charge for it. This is different to, by the way, charging for it under a different name or building it in elsewhere.
Yeah,
They're literally
absolutely.
not charging for it.
No charging for it, yeah.
40% of agencies are not charging for discovery or project scoping, whatever you call it. 9% are not charging for project management. That's nuts. And 27% are not charging for account management. So there we go. And if you find yourself in any of these categories, you're giving your time away for free. And if this is your asset, like this is your most valuable commodity, and you're giving it away for free, I think that's crazy. And if you want an incentive to not give your time away for free, what we did was we found the agencies that charged for all of these things, and we discovered that they made on average 8% more net profit than everyone else. That's a big number. That is a big number. They made 8% more net profit. If you need an incentive to start charging for project scoping, project management, and account management, all of those things, doing it.
There's also in Streamtime you can do a report where you can see how much account management each client has cost you over the year. That's important. If you don't charge for it, I mean, if you track it and you don't charge for it, at least you'll have insight to it. But if you don't charge for it, like you never know how much that some clients are very time consuming. They require a lot of calls, and that's time and that's money. Andy is saying, there's a very famous case of an agency in Australia who worked on one of the biggest retail accounts in the country for free for a year to win a pitch.
Okay.
Where do you sit on founders not charging for their time?
So it all depends on the size of the prize, right? And the risk associated with it.
Oh, they're separate questions, Andy's saying.
Oh, right. Okay. So
one thing was a statement and the other one was a question. Sorry for misreading that.
Right. For the first, it still depends on the size of the prize. I will address the first statement because it depends. Do you know what? This comes down to investment and risk, and so that's why we went into business. You know, if we wanted an easy life, if we just wanted to just do what we were doing before we set up our businesses, well, we would have stayed where we were. But we went into this, we took a risk. And in any situation with any client, particularly pitching, where you do need to, unfortunately, in the world we live in at the moment, give elements of your time away for free, then it comes down to the risk-reward ratio. And you've got to use, well, I was going to say use your gut, but you can use empirical measures. So there's some great questions you can ask about when deciding whether to pitch for a piece of work. So if you're discussing getting involved in a pitch with someone, you can say, well, hang on a minute, before I commit to this, which is going to take several hours out of the studio and cost tens of thousands of pounds, you can say, look, a typical pitch costs between £10,000 and £30,000. Before I can get that signed off by our FD, by the way, even if you don't have an FD, you can pretend you have one, because everyone assumes FDs are bastards. So it won't. You say, look, before I can get that money signed off by the FD, I really want to work on this, but I have some questions that I know he will ask me. So he or she will ask me. So the first question is, right, how many people are involved in the pitch process? And how will you make your decision? Is there an incumbent agency involved? So we're competing against someone who's got the inside track. What is the decision-making process? How many people are involved at your end? And I guess the other crucial question is what's your budget? And when people don't answer that question or says, oh, I don't know, you can say, well, basically people always do know what the budget is. You just need to tease it out of them. And a really good way to do that is to say, well, look, we tend to work, just to help me put the pitch together, we tend to work in 3 pricing brackets. Up here at this level, and then just give a range, somewhere between, and use your own ranges, 100 and 150,000 pounds will get your project to look like this. And then we've got this range here between 50 and 100,000, and then we tend to work in this 30 to 50 range. Which of those 3? And they will then suddenly say, they'll go from not having a budget to going, that one, but if you could make it nearer to this end, then that would be great. So, by the way, I know this because this happened to me. So a couple of years ago, we refitted the WOW offices, and Paul and I, my co-founder, we've never, refitted offices before. We had no idea what we're doing. Luckily, we have Tracy, our office manager, who's incredible, who came to us and said, guys, what's your budget? And we went, don't know, we've never done this before. Can we get good value for money? She said, well, that's not very helpful. And then she did something really clever. She said, well, do you know what? I found some flooring. We're thinking about, I can get the whole place kitted out, 3 floors for £50,000. We said, £50,000 for flooring? You're kidding me. We were kind of thinking 50 grand for the whole thing. And she went, aha, so you did have a budget. And we looked at each other and went, Oh yeah, we just didn't realise. We just needed it to come out at us. And so there we go. And that's, by the way, that's us not trying to be obtuse. We want to give Tracy as much information as we can. She's on our team. She's on our bloody team. It's just we didn't know until someone threw some numbers at us, and then suddenly it rose up, and we couldn't help but have a reaction. So I'd encourage you, when thinking about or teasing out those questions, to ask about budget. Sorry, I went off on one after Andy's very good statement. But
yeah, because he was wondering, you know, how did you feel about agency owners charging for their time, founders, you know, charging for their time?
Of course they should. Like, you're the most valuable resource in an agency. You've got the most experience. You've got the most insights. I think it's criminal not to charge. I see agency owners giving their time away for free. It's okay, it's just my time. Well, first of all, what sort of example does that set to your team? But also, it's the most valuable resource, you know. Package it up as consultancy, and you know, a lot of that just gets frittered away. You give away value, you leak out value in as part of the scoping or the onboarding process, the discovery phase, or even the sales process. You just give stuff away willy-nilly. I think it's nuts.
Yeah.
Say, well, look, I can give you a couple ideas, but at this point here, we stop. And if you want to engage in a discovery piece, then we're going to charge you this. One of our clients does this brilliantly well. They went from giving it away to they're saying, hang on a minute, we're going to do this properly. And this is an extreme case, but they do it. They say, to work with us, you need to engage in this 5-day piece of discovery. We're going to literally lock ourselves in a room for 5 consecutive days with your team, with our team, and we're going to charge £20,000 for that. And at the end of it, we will have decided everything that we need to do. We'll have a full project plan and fully scoped and fully priced, and then you can decide whether you want to work with us. Now, what they discovered was they were giving bits of that away anyway. So it might sound like an extreme thing, but they were
charge for it.
Yeah, charge for it. And then they get clients, so straight away they knock out all the clients that aren't serious. They get clients that are really serious, that really want to work with them. And they get, I mean, that's an incredibly intense, wonderful, imagine if you did that with all of your clients. But it doesn't need to be 5 days. You could do it in a day or in a half-a-day workshop, whatever works for you. But giving it away for free, crazy, absolutely crazy.
Yeah, so Andy completely agrees. He's seen giving away for free lots of times, the agency owners' time. If you're going to give anything for free, make it more junior time, because 20 years of experience costs money.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Couldn't agree more. I've got some stats on project values. Is it right to share these, Nate? I think they're really interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going over a bit of time. We've got a quick question by Joseph saying, I know you're talking about agencies, but how does that apply for a single person business? I purposely don't say freelancer. So in terms of charging, how does that apply for a single person business?
I think the same rules apply.
I agree.
You should... Look, each year, was it Joseph, the gentleman?
Yeah, pricing and hourly rates is kind of referring to, yeah.
Joseph, each year you get better at what you do, right? You get more efficient, you get better ideas, you're producing better and better work based on your experiences over all the previous projects. So you're delivering more value. You should charge for that value. There should be a correlation between that. Now, the beauty is once you charge more, you have a choice. You can work the same amount of hours and make more profit, or you can make the same amount of profit but reduce the hours. But you're in control of that. And I think it's really important that you challenge yourself to see how far you can push this. And I promise you'll be astonished to see how far you can take this on your journey as you find better quality clients, do better quality work, and work that's more fulfilling as well. Because here's the weird thing. Clients that pay the least, you thought they'd be most grateful. They're not. They're the ones that are a pain in the neck. They really are. So,
yeah.
Actually, there's not just a correlation of profitability. There's a correlation of job satisfaction and client nicety. There we go. See, plot that on the graph.
Yeah, no, I definitely. I spoke to Joseph, and he's looking at stream time, and I think that he'll be able to track a lot more of that and be able to get better at his pricing and his margins soon. Conscious that we're going over our usual time, but this is so interesting. How can we not talk about it? So, yes, take it away.
Yeah. So, sorry for going over, but
that's cool.
So, the data on project values is really interesting, and it's going to get you thinking about it should get you thinking about what you charge and what you get out of bed for. So some stats are just going to burst onto the screen here, and then I'll explain what they look like. So the average project value for agencies is £12,000. Only 2% of agencies have won a project in excess of £1 million. And what's interesting is we asked the question, what wouldn't you get out of bed for? And over half of agencies just wouldn't bother with a project of less than £5,000. So 57% wouldn't get out of bed for a project less than £5,000, because it's just so hard to make money at that level. It's hard because, you still need to do all of the getting to know the client and the onboarding and the discovery and the sales process. And then there's the project management and all the kerfuffle. It's just, a £50,000 project is not 10 times the work of a £5,000 project. And a £500,000 project isn't 100 times the work of a £5,000 project. So thinking about the size of your projects and trying to edge that up, well, not edge it up, but significantly increase it, is a smart move. And I'll show you why it's a smart move. This stat will confirm it. So what we did, we looked at the traits of the top 10%. So 1,000 agencies, top 10% by profitability. This is the creme de la creme. And we looked at what they did differently to everyone else. Here's what they did differently. First of all, 65% had won a project in excess of £250,000, right? Versus 19% average. So on average, 1 in 5 agencies have won a project in excess of £250,000. That is disproportionately higher amongst the most profitable. Nearly 2/3 have won a project in excess of £250,000. Bigger projects, bigger profit. The other interesting thing is the point at which they say no. So 60% of the most profitable wouldn't bother with projects less than 10 grand. Well, that's only 22%. 22% is the average. So again, roughly 1 in 5 agencies would say no to a project of 10 grand or less. Well, the ones that make the most profit, that almost certainly say no to it. 60% say no. So that's why, going back to our point at the beginning, higher fees, high project value, all leads to more profit. And more profit leads to sustainability. This isn't an exercise in accumulating cash for the sake of it, right? We need profit to run our businesses. Profit shouldn't be a dirty word. In order, whatever we want to accomplish in our businesses, whatever good we want to do, we cannot do that. We cannot go on that journey, accomplish these things, unless we have fuel in our tank, in our car, for our business. And profit and cash are that fuel that we need to take us on our journey. So more profitability equals more sustainability. It allows us to plan for the longer term, allows us to build bigger, brighter futures, do more good in the world, and achieve and fulfill our purpose, our mission, and whatever that is. So it's really important that we build businesses that are profitable and sustainable. So I have, if that really resonates with you and you're thinking, my goodness, I really would like to build a profitable and sustainable business, I'd encourage you to go to benchpress.uk.com. You can benchmark your agency, not just against the averages, but against the top performing ones. You can also, you'll get the latest report. So by taking the survey, you'll get the latest report when it's published in a few weeks. And you can also ask any benchmarking questions. So if the questions that we ask, and we ask different ones every year, and if the previous year's reports don't contain the answers that you want, then you can ask a benchmarking question and we will do our best to answer it for you. So, we've got 9 years worth of data. There's not much that we don't know about agencies here in the UK, and we love sharing that. We love doing that to inspire you to better things. And I hope that today has inspired you to better things.
Yes, and we've got the link to the BenchPress survey for you guys to take at the very beginning of the chat, and then we've also got a link. So if you want to hear more from Peter and the founders of Us Too, Ragged Edge, and others, come to our event on the 13th of Feb. The event is in London. It's Healthy Profits, and it starts at 2. And we've got the link to the event on the right hand side there, and it's just posted again, the BenchPress link for the survey. Guys, participate. You'll get a lot of insight out of it. And Pete, it's been amazing to have you again on one of our webinars, hopefully the second of many. And it's been just so good to share, to hear about that data. You know, I see it, but I never really know. I have a feeling about what I see normally, what's normal, what's not. But for you to actually say it based on facts is just so amazing. So thank you so much. I'm going to wrap it up because I know we're late. If anyone has got any questions, no props. Thanks, guys. If anyone has got any questions, just drop us a line, send us an email. We'll be happy to answer them.
Fab. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you, Nate.
Thank you, Pete. Chat to you soon. Cheers.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.